Ladies, have you ever felt like no matter how much you give, he just doesn't seem to crave you the way you crave him? Or maybe you found yourself wondering why the guys you're attracted to seem to lose interest so quickly, even when you've done everything right. It's frustrating, isn't it? You're left overanalyzing every move, trying to figure out what went wrong. But what if I told you that the answer isn't about doing more? It's about doing something different. There's a technique, a secret weapon, if you will, that has been quietly transforming the way women approach relationships for decades. It's called the push-pull technique, and it has the power to completely shift the dynamic between you and him. When done right, it creates a magnetic, irresistible connection that leaves him thinking about you non-stop. Sounds like magic, right? But it's not. It's a skill, and it's one you're about to master. Let's address one of the biggest myths up front. Many people think attraction is about being either totally available or completely unavailable. But here's the truth. Neither extreme works. Being too available makes him take you for granted, while playing hard to get for too long makes him give up entirely. The push-pull technique strikes the perfect balance. It's about creating a rhythm of emotional tension and release, which keeps the spark alive and the relationship exciting. Here's the kicker. Mastering this technique isn't about manipulation. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. Instead, it's about tapping into your natural confidence and learning how to create emotional dynamics that build intrigue, attraction, and yes, obsession. Trust me, once you understand how it works, you'll wonder why no one ever taught you this sooner. But this isn't just a set of rules to follow blindly. It's a philosophy, one that aligns with the concept of Stoic love, where you remain calm, confident, and centered in your power. By blending the push-pull technique with Stoicism, you can create a relationship dynamic that's not only passionate, but deeply fulfilling. So, are you ready to dive in and uncover the secrets of this powerful technique? Let's start with the first step, understanding the psychology behind it. 1. Understand the psychology behind push-pull. Why does the push-pull technique work so well? The answer lies deep within human psychology. Attraction isn't just about how someone looks or what they say. It's about how they make you feel. And what do people crave the most? Emotional highs, the thrill of the unknown, the excitement of not knowing what's coming next. Think about it. What makes your favorite romantic movie so captivating? It's not just the chemistry between the characters. It's the tension, the moments of uncertainty, and the emotional roller coaster that keeps you hooked. The push-pull technique taps directly into this dynamic by creating a sense of anticipation and intrigue. It's about giving just enough to make him feel connected, but holding back just enough to keep him wanting more. Here's an example. Have you ever had someone text you non-stop, showering you with attention? At first, it might feel flattering, but over time it becomes predictable. And let's be honest, a little boring. On the flip side, have you ever been around someone who's so aloof and distant that it feels like pulling teeth to get a response from them? Frustrating, right? The push-pull technique lives in the sweet spot between these two extremes. This balance works because humans are wired to seek challenge and reward. When something feels slightly out of reach, we're drawn to it. But when it's too far away or too easy, we lose interest. The push-pull technique creates an emotional rhythm that keeps his brain hooked, much like a compelling storyline in a book or movie. But let's pause for a moment and ask ourselves a key question. What makes this technique so effective when it's rooted in authenticity? The answer lies in your ability to project confidence and emotional self-sufficiency. The more you embrace your own value and avoid being overly attached to the outcome, the more attractive you become. This is where Stoicism comes into play. By staying calm, grounded, and centered in your emotions, you create a sense of mystery and strength that draws him in even further. Think of it this way. The push-pull technique is like dancing. It's not about forcing a reaction. It's about moving with the rhythm of the relationship. You step forward, he steps back. You step back, he steps forward. It's a dynamic, playful exchange that keeps both of you engaged and excited. Now, before you start thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually apply it? Don't worry. That's exactly what we'll dive into next. In the following sections, I'll break down the push-pull technique into actionable steps you can start using today. But here's a quick teaser. It's not just about what you say or do. It's about how you make him feel. So what's the key takeaway here? The push-pull technique works because it speaks directly to the way humans experience attraction. It's not about manipulation. It's about creating a dynamic that feels natural, exciting, and emotionally fulfilling. And when you pair it with the principles of Stoic love, you'll find yourself in complete control of the relationship dynamic, drawing him closer with ease. Curious about how to take this concept and turn it into action? Stay with me, because we're just getting started. Let's dive into the basics of how to use the push-pull technique in your daily interactions and watch the magic unfold. 2. Push-pull in action. The basics. Now that you understand why the push-pull technique works, let's get into how you can actually use it. Ladies, this is where the fun begins. Picture this. Instead of feeling like you're the one always chasing his attention, you're suddenly the one he can't stop thinking about. He's texting you first, planning ways to impress you, and even bragging to his friends about how irresistible you are. Sounds like a dream, right? But trust me, it's entirely possible when you master the basics of push-pull. So what exactly does push and pull mean in action? Let's break it down. The push is all about creating just enough distance to spark curiosity and intrigue. Think of it as gently stepping back and giving him a moment to miss you. This doesn't mean ignoring him or acting cold. It's more about showing that you have your own life and that you're not overly dependent on his attention. The push could be as simple as taking a little longer to reply to his text, turning down a date because you have plans, or playfully teasing him in a way that challenges him. On the flip side, the pull is about reeling him back in with warmth, affection, and attention. It's the moment when you remind him why he's so drawn to you in the first place. This could be a heartfelt compliment, a light touch on his arm, or even a flirty text that leaves him smiling like a teenager. The pull reassures him that you're interested, but only when he earns your attention. The key to making this work is balance. Push too hard, and he might feel rejected or frustrated. Pull too much, and you risk losing the spark. But when you get it just right, it creates a magnetic dynamic that keeps him hooked. Let's look at a real-life example. Imagine you're texting him and he sends you a funny joke. Instead of immediately showering him with laughter emojis and saying, "You're so funny," which is what he expects. You could push back with something playful like, "Huh, not bad. I'd give that a 7 out of 10. This adds a little challenge, sparking his competitive side. Then after a bit of banter, you can pull by saying something sweet like, "Okay, fine. You're actually hilarious. You always know how to make me laugh." See what you just did? You kept him on his toes while also making him feel appreciated. That's the magic of push-pull. Here's another scenario. Let's say you're on a date and he's been trying to impress you all evening. Instead of overpraising him or acting overly impressed, you could push by teasing him a bit. For example, if he's bragging about how great he is at cooking, you might say, "Oh yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. When's the dinner invite, Ben?" When he offers to cook for you, you can pull by saying something like, "I love that idea. I think it's adorable that you're so confident in the kitchen." You've just created a playful, flirty dynamic that makes him want to prove himself to you even more. But let me pause here for a moment. I know some of you might be thinking, this sounds risky. What if I push too hard, or he misunderstands my intentions? The secret to avoiding this is your tone. Push-pull only works when it's done in a light-hearted, playful, and authentic way. It's not about being mean, distant, or manipulative. It's about showing him that you're confident enough to stand your ground while still being open and approachable. Now here is an important tip. The push-pull technique works best when you genuinely have your own life and priorities. If your whole world revolves around him, your push will come across as fake, and your pull will feel desperate. But when you're genuinely busy, confident, and fulfilled, the push-pull dynamic becomes effortless. He'll sense that you're a woman with high value, someone who doesn't need him but chooses to share her time and energy with him. That's incredibly attractive. Let me ask you this. When was the last time you left a little mystery in your interactions? Do you always reply instantly, share every detail about your day, or make yourself too available? If so, it's time to switch things up. Start by incorporating small pushes like saying, "I'll call you later. I've got a ton going on today," even if your schedule isn't packed. Then when you do call or text him later, pull by giving him your full attention and making him feel like the center of your world in that moment. Remember, the goal isn't to confuse him. It's to create an emotional rhythm that keeps things exciting. Think of push-pull as the relationship equivalent of your favorite song. The highs and lows, the tension and release. It's all part of what makes it so captivating. Before we move on to the next part of this journey, let me share a quick tip. Don't be afraid to experiment with push-pull in a way that feels authentic to you. Start small. Observe how he responds, and adjust as needed. Every man is different, and part of the fun is discovering what works for the unique dynamic between you and him. Now, if you're finding this advice valuable so far, let me know. Like this video, and drop a comment with number 1 below if you're loving these tips and want more. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to this channel for even more game-changing insights into attraction, love, and relationships. Trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Okay, ladies, we're just getting started. In the next section, we'll dive into one of the most crucial aspects of push-pull, knowing when to push and when to pull. Timing is everything, and I'll show you exactly how to get it right. 3. Timing is everything. Know when to push and pull. Let's get one thing straight. Even the most powerful techniques lose their impact if they're done at the wrong time. The magic of push-pull doesn't just lie in the actions themselves. It's all about timing. When you get the timing right, you'll find that he's leaning in, texting you first, and constantly trying to figure out what's next. So, how do you know when to push and when to pull? This is where your intuition, awareness, and understanding of emotional dynamics come into play. First, let's talk about when to push. This is your moment to step back, create a bit of space, and spark curiosity. But here's the key. Pushing is most effective when he's starting to feel a little too comfortable. Maybe he's stopped putting in as much effort, or he's starting to take your attention for granted. It's not about punishing him. It's about breaking the pattern and reminding him that your attention isn't guaranteed. For example, let's say he used to text you good morning every day, but lately he's been inconsistent or not texting at all. Instead of chasing him with messages like, "Is everything okay? I haven't heard from you," take a step back. That's your opportunity to push. Keep your distance. Let him notice your absence and focus on yourself. Maybe you post a photo of you having an amazing time with friends, or casually mention that you've been busy with something exciting. The idea isn't to make him jealous. It's to remind him that you're a high-value woman who doesn't wait around for anyone. But here's an important reminder. A push doesn't always have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as being unavailable for a phone call or declining a date because you already have plans. The key is to show that you value your time and expect him to value it too. By creating just enough distance, you make space for him to miss you, and trust me, he will. Now let's shift gears and talk about when to pull. This is your chance to step in and give him the burst of warmth and connection that keeps him hooked. Pulling works best when he's showing effort, vulnerability, or investment in the relationship. For example, if he goes out of his way to do something sweet for you, don't hold back on showing your appreciation. A sincere compliment or a thoughtful gesture in return lets him know that his effort is noticed and valued. Pulling is also important when you sense that he might be feeling unsure about where he stands with you. Maybe he's started to hold back a little because he doesn't want to come on too strong. In these moments, pulling him in with a heartfelt message or a small act of affection can go a long way. For instance, you could send him a text saying, "I was just thinking about how much fun we had the other night. You really know how to make me smile." That small reassurance can reignite his confidence and deepen the connection between you. But here's where timing gets tricky. How do you balance pushing and pulling without sending mixed signals? The answer lies in paying attention to his behavior and emotional state. Attraction isn't a one-size-fits-all formula. It's a dance, and you need to read the rhythm. Let's break this down with an example. Imagine you've been dating someone for a few months, and everything is going great. He's attentive, affectionate, and clearly interested. But then suddenly, he starts pulling back. He's not texting as often, and when he does, the messages feel less engaging. Instead of panicking or overanalyzing, take a moment to step back and assess. Is he pulling back because he's busy, stressed, or simply testing the waters to see how much you'll chase him? If that's the case, this is your moment to push. Instead of texting him repeatedly or trying to fix the situation, focus on yourself. Give him space to process whatever he's feeling, and when he does reach out, don't jump right back in. Keep things light and playful. For example, if he asks what you've been up to, you might say, "Oh, just living my best life. How about you?" This shows that you're confident, independent, and not overly affected by his temporary withdrawal. On the other hand, let's say you notice that he's making an effort again. Maybe he texts you something thoughtful or brings up plans for the weekend. That's your cue to pull. Respond warmly, show your appreciation, and let him know that his effort is paying off. This creates a positive feedback loop. The more he invests, the more you reward him with your attention and affection. Here's a little secret. Pushing and pulling aren't just about what you say or do. They're about how you make him feel. A push should make him feel intrigued, curious, and slightly challenged. A pull should make him feel valued, appreciated, and emotionally connected. When you master the timing of these emotional cues, you create a dynamic that keeps him coming back for more. But let me ask you something. Are you willing to trust the process? Because here's the thing. Pushing can feel uncomfortable at first. As women, we're often conditioned to believe that if we don't constantly show our interest, he'll lose interest in us. But the opposite is true. By stepping back at the right moments, you give him the space to lean in and pursue you. And pulling, that's where your warmth, kindness, and authenticity shine. It's your opportunity to show him that you're not just a challenge, you're also a reward. This balance of challenge and connection is what makes the push-pull technique so powerful. Now let's take a moment to reflect. Have you ever found yourself stuck in one extreme, either pushing too hard and coming across as distant, or pulling too much and feeling like you're doing all the work? If so, it's time to reset the balance. Start by observing his actions and responding accordingly. When he's leaning in, pull. When he's taking your attention for granted, push. Over time, you'll develop a natural sense of when to shift between the two. By now, you should be starting to see how timing is everything in the push-pull technique. It's not about rigid rules or formulas. It's about staying attuned to the dynamic between you and him. When you pair this skill with the principles of Stoicism, you'll find that you're no longer overreacting or second-guessing yourself. Instead, you'll feel calm, confident, and in control, embodying the essence of Stoic love, a connection built on balance, respect, and emotional depth. In the next section, we're going to dive deeper into the art of pushing without pushing him away. This is where you'll learn how to create just enough distance to keep him intrigued, without crossing the line into frustration or confusion. Stay with me, because the best is yet to come. Fourth, how to push without pushing him away. Let's talk about the push-pull technique. This is where so many women get it wrong. You want to create just enough space to intrigue him, but if you're not careful, a poorly timed or poorly executed push can leave him feeling confused, frustrated, or even worse, completely uninterested. So how do you push him without accidentally pushing him away? The answer lies in your tone, timing, and intention. Let's break it down. First things first, pushing is not about being cold or distant. It's not about ignoring him for days or acting like you don't care. That kind of behavior isn't a push. It's a shutdown, and it rarely works. Instead, think of the push as a playful nudge that challenges him to step up and meet you at your level. You're not rejecting him. You're reminding him that your attention is valuable and something he needs to work for. Let's start with an example. Imagine you've been texting back and forth, and the conversation is going great. Instead of dragging it out for hours, you could push by ending the chat on a high note. Say something like, "This has been fun, but I've got to run. Talk soon." You're signaling that you enjoyed the interaction, but you're also leaving him wanting more. Another way to push is by being a little mysterious. Let's say he asks what you're up to this weekend. Instead of giving him your entire schedule, you could say, "I've got some plans I'm really excited about. What about you?" This keeps him curious about what you're doing without making it seem like you're intentionally withholding information. But here's the golden rule. Your push should always feel light-hearted and confident, not defensive or aloof. Men can sense the difference between a woman who's genuinely busy and self-assured versus one who's trying too hard to create distance. The former is attractive, the latter feels like a game. Now let's address one of the biggest fears women have about pushing. What if he thinks I'm not interested and gives up? Ladies, let me reassure you. When done correctly, the push doesn't make him lose interest. It makes him realize that you're not going to chase him. And that's exactly what ignites his desire to chase you. Men are naturally wired to pursue what they value. And by creating a little space, you're giving him the opportunity to invest in you. Here's a tip that will take your push to the next level. Combine it with a playful sense of humor. For example, if he's been bragging about how great he is at something, you could tease him by saying, "Oh, really? Prove it. I'm not convinced yet." This kind of playful push challenges him in a way that feels fun, not harsh. It shows that you're not easily impressed, and that makes him want to try even harder to win you over. But what about those moments when he seems to be pulling back? Should you push even harder? Not necessarily. Sometimes the best push is simply focusing on yourself and letting him come to you. This is where the principles of Stoic love come into play. When you remain calm, confident, and grounded, you naturally create a sense of intrigue. You're not reacting to his behavior or chasing after his attention. You're showing him that you're perfectly happy on your own, and that's incredibly attractive. Think about it. When was the last time you felt drawn to someone who seemed desperate for your attention? Probably never, right? Desperation repels, but confidence attracts. By staying centered and giving him space, you're showing that you're a high-value woman who doesn't need validation from anyone. When he realizes that, he'll be even more motivated to pursue you. Let's take a moment to reflect on a key point here. The push is not just about creating distance. It's about setting boundaries and showing that you have standards. If he's not meeting those standards, you're not afraid to step back and let him notice what he's missing. For example, if he cancels plans at the last minute without good reason, you could push by saying, "That's disappointing. I was looking forward to seeing you. Let me know when you're serious about making plans." This isn't about punishing him. It's about standing up for yourself and showing that you expect to be treated with respect. But don't forget, every push needs to be balanced with a pull. If you're always creating distance without ever showing warmth or affection, he'll eventually give up. The push-pull technique works because it creates a dynamic flow between challenge and reward. Push just enough to intrigue him, and then pull him back in with your charm. kindness, and genuine interest. Ladies, let me ask you this. Are you ready to start pushing in a way that feels natural and empowering? Because once you master this, you'll notice a dramatic shift in the way men respond to you. Instead of chasing their attention, they'll be chasing yours. Instead of overthinking every text or interaction, you'll feel calm, confident, and in control. Now, if this sounds like the kind of energy you want to bring into your relationships, let me know. Like this video and drop a comment with number 1 if you're loving these tips and ready to take your attraction game to the next level. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for even more insights into creating a magnetic, lasting connection. You don't want to miss what's coming next. All right, in the next section, we'll talk about the other half of this dynamic, how to pull him back in after a push. This is where the magic happens, and I promise you it's going to change the way you approach relationships forever. 5. Mastering the pull, reeling him back in. If the push is the spark that ignites his curiosity, the pull is the warmth that keeps him coming back for more. It's where you create a sense of emotional connection and make him feel seen, valued, and appreciated. The pull is just as important as the push. Without it, you risk creating too much distance and leaving him unsure about where he stands with you. But when done right, the pull reinforces his desire and keeps the dynamic alive. So, how do you master this delicate art of reeling him back in? The first thing to understand about pulling is that it's not about overcompensating or trying too hard. The pull is subtle, yet powerful. It's about leaning in just enough to make him feel wanted without smothering him. The best pulls feel natural and effortless, and they often come from small gestures that show your genuine affection and appreciation for him. For example, after a playful push where you've created a bit of space, a simple pull might be sending him a sweet text like, "I just remembered something funny you said the other night. It still makes me laugh." This type of message is light, warm, and completely non-clingy. It reminds him of the connection you share and invites him to engage without pressuring him. But the pull isn't just about words, it's about actions too. Let's say he makes an effort to plan a thoughtful date, or surprises you with something small but meaningful. This is your opportunity to pull by, showing your appreciation. A genuine compliment like, "I love how much thought you put into things. It really means a lot to me," goes a long way in making him feel valued. When he sees that his efforts are noticed and appreciated, he'll be inspired to keep stepping up. Here's another key aspect of pulling: vulnerability. Now, I don't mean pouring your heart out or sharing your deepest fears right away. Vulnerability, in the context of pulling, is about letting your guard down, just enough to let him see the real you. For instance, sharing a personal story or opening up about something you're passionate about can create a sense of intimacy that draws him closer. It's in these moments of openness that he feels a deeper emotional connection, which is ultimately what keeps him hooked. Timing is everything with the pull. It's most effective when he's already leaning in or showing signs of investment. For example, if he's been making an effort to text you more often or plan dates, that's your signal to pull. By responding warmly and reciprocating his efforts, you create a positive feedback loop. He puts in effort, you acknowledge it, and he feels rewarded, which motivates him to keep pursuing you. However, there's a fine line between pullin' and over-pulling. Overpulling happens when you go overboard with compliments, attention, or affection, making the dynamic feel one-sided. Remember, the goal is to create balance. If you find yourself doing all the work to maintain the connection, it's time to step back and let him take the lead again. One of the most powerful ways to pull is through physical affection. A light touch on his arm, a hug that lingers a second longer than usual, or even a playful nudge can speak volumes. Physical touch activates a deeper level of connection and reminds him of the chemistry you share. It's a simple yet effective way to pull him back in without saying a word. But pulling isn't just about romantic gestures. It's also about building trust and emotional safety. Men are often conditioned to hide their vulnerabilities and emotions, so when you create a space where he feels safe to open up, it's incredibly powerful. This doesn't mean forcing deep conversations or prying into his feelings. Instead, it's about listening without judgment, being present, and showing empathy when he does choose to share. When he feels that he can be himself around you, he'll naturally be drawn closer. Another way to pull effectively is to make him feel special. This doesn't mean showering him with constant praise, but rather finding specific things about him to highlight. For example, instead of a generic compliment like, "You're amazing," you could say, "I really admire how dedicated you are to your goals. It's so inspiring." Specific compliments feel more genuine and show that you're paying attention to who he is as a person. Let's take a moment to talk about balance. The push-pull dynamic is like a dance, and the pull is your moment to let him step closer. If you've been pushing by creating a bit of distance or challenging him, the pull should feel like a reward for his effort. It's your way of saying, "I see you, I value you, and I appreciate the connection we're building." But what happens if he's slow to respond to your pulls? This is where patience and self-assurance come into play. Remember, the pull isn't about immediate gratification. It's about planting seeds of connection that grow over time. Sometimes he may need a little space to process his feelings or figure out how to respond. That's okay, as long as you're staying true to yourself and maintaining your standards. The right dynamic will unfold naturally. Finally, let's talk about the role of Stoic love in the pull. Stoicism teaches us to remain calm, grounded, and centered, even in the face of uncertainty. When you approach the pull with this mindset, you exude a quiet confidence that's incredibly attractive. You're not pulling out of desperation or fear of losing him. You're pulling because you genuinely value the connection and want to nurture it. This sense of calm strength is what makes the pull so effective. To sum up, the pull is your chance to show warmth, affection, and appreciation in a way that feels authentic and natural. It's about reeling him back in after a push, creating a balance of challenge and reward that keeps the relationship dynamic and exciting. By mastering the art of pulling, you'll not only deepen his desire for you, but also build a connection that feels meaningful and lasting. In the next section, we'll explore how to avoid mistakes when using the push-pull technique. Stay with me, because understanding what not to do is just as important as knowing what to do. You're about to become a master of attraction, so let's keep going. 6. Avoid common mistakes. When using push-pull, ladies, let's face it, even the best techniques can backfire if they're not used correctly. The push-pull technique is no exception. While it's a powerful tool for creating intrigue and attraction, it's also easy to misuse, which can lead to confusion, frustration, or even drive him away. But don't worry. By understanding the most common mistakes and how to avoid them, you'll ensure that your push-pull dynamic is as smooth and effective as possible. Let's start with one of the biggest mistakes: overusing the push. It's tempting to think that creating distance will automatically make him chase you, but too much pushing can leave him feeling rejected or unsure about where he stands with you. For example, if you're always unavailable, take too long to respond to his texts, or consistently downplay his efforts, he might start to think you're not interested. And once that thought takes root, he may decide to stop trying altogether. The solution? Balance. Remember that the push is meant to spark intrigue, not create a wall. For instance, if you've been a little distant for a couple of days, make sure to follow up with a pull that lets him know you still value the connection. A quick text like, "Hey, I've been thinking about you. How's your day going?" can go a long way in reassuring him while still maintaining an air of mystery. Another common mistake is making the push feel too harsh or cold. Ladies, the goal is to challenge him in a playful and lighthearted way, not to make him feel unimportant or neglected. For example, teasing him about his cooking skills with, "You'll have to prove you're as good as ya say," is a fun push. But ignoring his texts or brushing off his compliments with sarcasm crosses the line. Tone is everything here. If you want to push him, do it with a wink, not a scowl. Think of it as a way to invite him to step up and meet your energy, not as a punishment or test. And if you ever feel like your push might have been misinterpreted, follow it up with a gentle pull to clarify your intentions. Now let's talk about another mistake: failing to match his energy. Push-pull is a dynamic exchange, which means you need to pay attention to how he's responding. If he's already leaning in and putting in effort, an unnecessary push might confuse him. On the flip side, if he's pulling back or showing hesitation, over-pulling could make you come across as desperate or needy. The best way to avoid this mistake is to stay attuned to his behavior and emotions. For example, if he's been reaching out more often, that's your cue to pull by showing warmth and appreciation. But if he seems distracted or distant, it might be time to push gently by stepping back and giving him space. Here's another trap to avoid: using push-pull as a game instead of a tool for genuine connection. The push-pull technique is not about manipulation or playing hard to get. It's about creating a natural rhythm of challenge and reward that keeps the relationship exciting. If you approach it with the mindset of, "How can I make him chase me?" instead of, "How can we build a deeper connection?" you're likely to end up with short-term results that fizzle out quickly. The key to avoiding this mistake is authenticity. The best pushes and pulls come from a place of self-confidence and emotional balance, not from a desire to control or outsmart him. When you approach the technique with sincerity and intention, he'll sense that you're genuine, and the dynamic will feel effortless. One more mistake that's all too common: forgetting to prioritize your own needs and happiness. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of creating attraction and forget that the ultimate goal is a healthy, fulfilling relationship. If you're constantly strategizing about when to push or pull without considering how you feel, the process can become exhausting and inauthentic. Ladies, let me remind you, The most attractive thing you can bring to any relationship is a sense of self-worth and independence. The push-pull technique works best when it's rooted in a life that's already full and satisfying. When you're confident, fulfilled, and focused on your own growth, your pushes and pulls will feel natural and genuine, not forced or calculated. This is where Stoic love and the principles of Stoicism come into play. By staying grounded, calm, and self-assured, you create an energy that draws him in without effort. Now here's the good news. These mistakes are easy to fix once you're aware of them. If you've been over-pushing, try leaning into the pull more often. If you've been too focused on pulling, experiment with small, playful pushes. And if you've been treating the technique like a game, take a step back and reconnect with your intentions. Remember, attraction isn't about perfection. It's about creating a dynamic that feels exciting, authentic, and balanced. The push-pull technique is just one tool in your arsenal, and it works best when it's part of a broader approach to building a meaningful connection. Ladies, let me ask you, are you starting to see how powerful this technique can be when used correctly? Are you ready to ditch the games and step into your power with confidence and ease? If you've been loving these tips, let me know by liking this video and dropping a 1 in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you never miss out on the strategies that can transform your love life. In the next and final section, we'll talk about how to take everything you've learned so far and use it to build long-term attraction and connection. Because let's be real, it's not just about keeping him obsessed for a moment. It's about creating a relationship that lasts. 7. Build long-term attraction beyond push-pull. By now, you've learned how to master the push-pull technique to create intrigue, keep him engaged, and leave him wanting more. But here's the thing. While push-pull is a powerful tool, it's just one piece of the puzzle. Real, lasting attraction goes beyond playful dynamics. It's about building a connection that feels both exciting and deeply meaningful. So, how do you take what you've learned and use it to create long-term attraction that stands the test of time? First, let's talk about consistency. The push-pull technique thrives on balance, and that balance doesn't stop after the initial stages of attraction. To keep the spark alive, you'll need to maintain a steady rhythm of connection and challenge. But here's the difference. As your relationship deepens, the pushes and pulls become less about creating intrigue and more about fostering mutual respect and personal growth. For example, early on, a push might look like being slightly unavailable to let him miss you. Later in the relationship, it could mean setting boundaries around your needs or standing firm on something important to you. These pushes aren't about playing hard to get. They're about showing that you're a confident, self-assured partner who values her own happiness and expects the same from him. Similarly, the pulls evolve over time as well. In the beginning, pulling might involve showing affection or giving him a heartfelt compliment. Over time, it becomes about creating a safe, supportive space where he feels valued and understood. It's about showing up for him in meaningful ways, whether that means celebrating his successes, comforting him during challenges, or simply being present in the little moments that make up your life together. One of the keys to long-term attraction is emotional safety. While the push-pull technique keeps the dynamic exciting, a lasting connection requires trust, vulnerability, and open communication. Men, like women, want to feel secure in their relationships. They want to know that they can be themselves without fear of judgment or rejection. By fostering emotional safety, you create a foundation that allows both of you to let your guard down and truly connect. Here's where the principles of Stoic love come into play. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our thoughts, actions, and emotions, while letting go of the things we can't control, like how others respond to us. When you embrace this mindset, you approach your relationship from a place of strength and calm. You're not reacting like every little bump in the road, or constantly seeking reassurance. Instead, you're grounded, confident, and in control of your own happiness. This inner stability is incredibly attractive. It shows him that you're not just looking for someone to complete you. You're a whole, fulfilled person who chooses to share her life with him. And that choice, when rooted in confidence and authenticity, makes him feel even more drawn to you. But let's address something important. No relationship is perfect. There will be moments of conflict, misunderstandings, and challenges. The goal isn't to avoid these moments, but to navigate them with grace and resilience. This is where the balance of push and pull becomes even more essential. During conflicts, a push might mean taking a step back to cool off and reflect, while a pull might involve coming back together to have an open, honest conversation. It's about finding ways to move forward together, even when things get tough. Now let's talk about individuality. One of the most overlooked aspects of long-term attraction is the ability to maintain your own identity within the relationship. It's easy to fall into the trap of merging your life completely with his, but this can lead to stagnation and a loss of the very qualities that made you attractive in the first place. Keep pursuing your passions, spending time with your friends, and setting goals for yourself outside of the relationship. Not only does this keep you fulfilled, but it also adds depth and dimension to the connection. He'll admire your independence and feel inspired to grow alongside you. This balance of togetherness and individuality is what keeps a relationship dynamic and exciting over the long haul. Another critical element of long-term attraction is curiosity. Never stop learning about each other. Even in a committed relationship, there's always more to discover. Ask questions, share experiences, and create opportunities to deepen your bond. This sense of curiosity keeps the relationship fresh and prevents it from falling into routine. Let me give you an example. Imagine you've been together for over a year and feel like you know everything about him. Instead of assuming that's true, ask him something unexpected, like, what's one thing you've always wanted to do but haven't tried yet? Or, what's a dream you've never shared with anyone? These kinds of conversations open up new layers of intimacy and remind him that you're still invested in getting to know him on a deeper level. Finally, let's not forget the role of gratitude. Over time, it's easy to take each other for granted, especially as the relationship becomes more comfortable. But gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to nurture long-term attraction. Let him know that you see and appreciate the little things he does, whether it's making you laugh, supporting you during a tough time, or simply being there for you. Gratitude creates a positive feedback loop that strengthens the connection between you. As we wrap up this journey, I want to emphasize one thing. The push-pull technique is a tool, not a magic formula. It's meant to enhance your connection, not replace the deeper work of building a healthy, fulfilling relationship. When combined with authenticity, self-awareness, and emotional intelligence, it becomes part of a larger picture, one that includes trust, respect, and mutual growth. The truth is, lasting attraction isn't just about keeping him obsessed with you. It's about creating a bond that feels meaningful, exciting, and sustainable. And when you bring the principles of Stoicism and Stoic love into the equation, you'll find that you're not just navigating relationships, you're thriving in them. So take everything you've learned, apply it with confidence, and watch as your relationships transform in ways you never thought possible. Because when you step into your power and embrace the art of connection, the possibilities are truly endless. Ladies, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored. The push-pull technique is more than just a method to spark attraction. It's a mindset. It's about owning your value, creating a dynamic that excites and engages, and fostering a connection that feels authentic and fulfilling. But above all, it's about stepping into your power with confidence and grace. As we've discussed, attraction isn't about chasing or forcing someone to stay interested. It's about building something real. It's about balancing moments of mystery with moments of connection, creating an emotional rhythm that keeps the spark alive. And most importantly, it's about remembering that you are the prize. You are the woman who brings light, laughter, and love into his life. But here's the secret. None of this works unless you believe in your own worth. The principles of Stoic love remind us that true attraction begins with self-assurance. When you embody the calm, grounded energy of Stoicism, you stop worrying about the whiffs and start living in the present. You stop chasing validation and start radiating confidence. And that, my friend, is irresistible. Now, as you go forward, I want you to remember one thing. The push-pull technique isn't about playing games. It's about creating a dynamic that feels exciting, authentic, and alive. It's a tool that can help you navigate the complexities of modern relationships while staying true to yourself. When you combine it with trust, communication, and emotional depth, you'll find that you're not just attracting love, you're cultivating it. So here's my challenge for you. Start applying what you've learned today. Experiment with small pushes and pulls. Watch how he responds, observe how the dynamic shifts, and most importantly, keep showing up as your confident, radiant self. Because at the end of the day, the most attractive thing about you is you. If this video has inspired you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you going to start using the push-pull technique in your life? What part of this strategy resonated with you the most? Share your story in the comments below. I can't wait to hear from you. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a little push or pull in the right direction. Thank you for spending this time with me. And remember, you are powerful, you are worthy, and you are absolutely captivating. Until next time, go out there and shine.